What's up, y'all? If you're new here, well, guess what? We all are. This is the first episode of The Wiggle Room, and I'm your host, Matt Lavazetta. This is the start of something real, and I guess a look into how we got here. So let's get to it. I remember reaching a point where I'd completely run out of wiggle room. I was exhausted, carrying around so much old hurt that it was spilling over, not just onto myself, but onto the people I loved. I was trapped in familiar, painful patterns, confident that that's just who I was. My ego was loud as hell, convincing me that I had everything figured out, even as everything around me kept falling apart. But then one day, I saw how my past was right in my present, and boom, it hit me that if I didn't start doing the real, messy, hard work, I keep fucking up the people who matter most. That realization brought me here to this podcast. That's why I created the Wiggle Room. I wanted to hold space for honest conversations about these no wiggle room moments. For a while, I've been sharing my reflections on Instagram stories, almost like a live journal, talking about the hard lessons I was going through or even things that my friends and I were struggling with. And honestly, it made me feel better putting those experiences out there, hoping others would listen and maybe avoid some of the pain I face myself. This podcast is a natural next step, a way to go beyond some quick reflections and really dive into the experiences that shape us. And to start, I want to share one of my own no wiggle room moments, a time when I had no choice but to face myself. I was down to a single determined breath in a place so tight that moving forward felt impossible. It's a story of how I broke a loop I didn't even know I was running. See, I've been a lot of things in my life: a go-getter, a perfectionist, a guy who thought he knew it all. But the truth, I was also selfish, blind as hell to it, but deeply selfish. And for a long time, I didn't even know it. I thought I was doing everything right, grinding at work, chasing success, putting a roof over our heads. But I wasn't building a life. I was running a loop of self-centered choices, shielded from the truth about who I was and what I was doing to the people who mattered most. I mean, shit, have you ever been stuck in a pattern so familiar, so safe that it starts to feel like it's your identity? Like, this is just who I am? That was 100% me. I was so trapped in my routines that I couldn't see the damage I was doing. Not to myself, not to anyone else. I thought I had it all figured out. But looking back, I didn't even have a clue. When I got married, I thought I understood what I was signing up for. A relationship with a certificate. You love someone, you say some vows, and life moves on, right? But those words, the promises we make, they're supposed to mean something. And for me, they didn't. Not because I didn't love her, but because I didn't understand what love really required. Not yet. I'd grown up my whole life watching relationships from the outside. My parents weren't even married when I was born, so marriage felt abstract for me, like something other people just did. I didn't have a model to follow, so I made one up. And in my model, love looked like showing up on paper, not emotionally, not fully, just, I don't know, checking some boxes. And that's exactly how I showed up for her. Around the same time, my career as a loan officer in real estate was starting to take off. And let me tell you, I'm an all-in kind of person. When I commit fully. But here's the thing. I didn't commit to my marriage. I committed to my job. I committed to myself. My work quickly became the centerpiece of my life. It was the first thing I thought about in the morning, the last thing I thought about at night. And at the time, I told myself I was doing it for us, but that was a lie. The truth was, my work gave me a sense of control, validation, and purpose that I didn't know how to find in my marriage or in myself. This makes me think about her favorite tradition, Christmas Eve at her family's house. And this was an event that everybody pulled up for. It was her favorite night of the year. It meant everything to her. It was the magic she carried from her childhood. Games, laughter, everyone staying up late, just to wake up the next morning to open gifts together. And every year, I found a way to escape. I remember I just sit on the couch, hearing everyone laugh, clinking dishes would be filling the room. I'm glancing at my watch for like the 5th time. I always made sure to leave by 9 p.m. no matter what. And I told myself I just needed my space. But the truth, I just didn't know how to be present. I didn't know how to lean into somebody else's joy or let myself be vulnerable in a room full of love. And I know her family must have seen it. They had to have noticed how I was there, but not really there. And every goodbye felt like I was saying something I didn't have the courage to say out loud to her, and that was, "You're on your own." By that time, the distance between us was undeniable. We were going through the motions, like two ships passing in the night, barely speaking the same language anymore. And counseling seemed like the right step, but I wasn't invested. I'd sit there nodding, acting like I cared, but my heart wasn't in it. I wasn't willing to face myself yet. Spiritual counseling felt a little closer to home, but even then, I approached it the same way I approached everything else in our relationship. Halfway in, halfway out. My ex-wife, though, per usual, she was diving deep. She found herself deeply rooted in spirituality, hosting sound healing events, creating something really beautiful for herself. And me, I didn't show up to a single event. Not one. My work was always the excuse. But the truth, I was just scared of a vulnerable connection. After we got separated, I thought I was ready to move on. I got into another relationship, thinking it would be a fresh start, a pathway to happiness, a way to leave all the pain behind. But life has a funny way of showing you the truth that you've been running from. This new relationship wasn't a fresh start. It was a mirror. For the first time, I felt what my ex-wife must have felt. The neglect, the dismissal, the constant sense that I was only halfway in. And it hit me tough. I wasn't just seeing this person. I was seeing myself. The selfishness, the disconnect, the pain I had caused. I couldn't look away. That mirror forced me to confront the truth. I had spent years running a loop, building walls around myself, hiding behind my career, convincing myself I was doing everything right while the people I loved paid the price. That realization hit hard. And so did that guilt, but so did the clarity. And I think I finally understood the depth of my selfishness, the way it rippled out to the people around me. And I understood finally that happiness isn't something you chase, it's something you create. That relationship, the one I thought that would heal me and bring me happiness, it became the wake-up call my selfish ass needed. Breaking a loop is messy, it's painful, but it's also necessary. That's why I started this podcast, because I know I'm not the only one who's been stuck. running the same patterns, hurting people they love. I know what it feels like to run out of wiggle room, but I also know what it feels like to start over, to find the space to grow, to heal, to become something more. And if you're willing to do the work, the messy, hard, beautiful hard work, you can find that space too. Honestly, I'm just here to create wiggle room together. And I'm excited to bring in the voices of others who face their own no wiggle room moments. Business people who've rebuilt after failure, friends who've navigated life's hardest and darkest corners, and a couple of my favorite mental health experts too. These are the stories we need to hear because they remind us that even in the tightest spaces, there's always a way forward. But this isn't just about my story or their story. It's about all of us. If you've ever faced a no wiggle room moment, I'd love to hear it. You can share it with me on Instagram, via DM, a comment. I'd love to feature it in a future episode because these experiences are what help connect us and help us grow. These moments of breaking and rebuilding are not easy, but we got to stop fucking ourselves up so we can stop fucking each other up. If this story hit for you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. And remember to follow the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. Welcome to the Wiggle Room. I'll see y'all soon.